In the darkest days of World War II, when everything was on the line, the most dangerous battle wasn't fought on the front lines. No, it was fought behind closed doors. This is the story of a secret power struggle, a clash of wills that came dangerously close to tearing the Allies apart and completely changing the outcome of the war.
But let's be clear, this isn't just another war story. This is a political thriller, playing out in real time. It's about two colossal egos colliding at the worst possible moment, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance.
So picture this. It's December 1944. The Ardennes forest is frozen solid. Hitler has just thrown everything he has left into one last, desperate gamble, the Battle of the Bulge. The American lines, they're not just bending, they're breaking. In some places, they've been completely wiped out. All that momentum the Allies had, it's come to a dead, terrifying stop.
And amid all that chaos on the ground, something else is starting to snap. The Allied command structure itself. Panic is starting to creep in, communication lines are down, and the whole alliance is under so much pressure you can almost feel it beginning to crack. Right at the center of this storm are two of the biggest figures of the war. You've got Britain's Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, Monty, a brilliant tactician, the hero of El Alamein, but also famously arrogant. And then you have America's Dwight D. Eisenhower, the supreme commander. He's not the battlefield guy, he's the political mastermind, the one holding this fragile coalition together. They could not be more different, and they are headed straight for each other.
Now, to really get what's going on in Montgomery's head, you have to remember what just happened. His last big idea, Operation Market Garden, was a complete and utter disaster, and his ego is bruised badly. So when he looks at the chaos in the Ardennes, he doesn't just see a crisis. He sees a chance, an opportunity to redeem himself and prove that he's the only one who can fix this mess.
And that's when he makes his move. It's one of the boldest, you could honestly call it insubordinate, plays of the entire war. He travels to Eisenhower's headquarters not to offer help, but to make a demand.
Just try to imagine the sheer nerve. The battle is raging, American soldiers are fighting for their lives, and this British field marshal walks in and says he wants to take over. Not just any command of the American armies. He wants legendary generals like Omar Bradley and George Patton to report directly to him. It's unbelievable.
Now, in his mind, the logic was perfectly sound. The situation was desperate, he believed American leadership was failing, and the only way to win was with one single commander calling all the shots. And, of course, in his view, the only man for that job was, well, him. He truly thought he was doing what was necessary to save the alliance.
Eisenhower is now facing the biggest battle of his career. But it's not going to be fought in the snow with tanks and artillery. It's going to be a quiet war, fought right there in his office, and his only weapon is politics.
Think about the spot he's in. What do? If he just says no, he looks arrogant and it could cause a massive political fight between the US and Britain. But if he says yes, he's admitting American command has failed and completely humiliating his own generals. The stakes are just astronomical.
And this, right here, is where you see the genius of Eisenhower. He doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't get into an argument. He knows this isn't a military problem, it's a political one. So he comes up with this brilliant plan to let Monty's own ego be the thing that brings him down.
His weapon, a single, secret cable. He calmly writes a message to the top brass in both Washington and London, and in it he says, basically, look, Montgomery and I can't agree on this. It's an impossible situation. You have to choose one of us. It's him or me. And he absolutely knew there was only one way they could answer. Why? Because America had the soldiers, the tanks, the planes, the money. It was game over, a political checkmate.
But here's the wild part. Before that cable ever needed to be sent, Montgomery, totally oblivious to the trap that's about to spring, goes ahead and lights his own career on fire.
He calls a press conference. And in front of the world's media, he talks about the battle like a school teacher discussing a mildly interesting puzzle. He acts as if he personally showed up and solved everything, barely mentioning the Americans who were doing almost all of the fighting. Just listen to his language. It's all I saw, I took, I ensured. He paints this picture of himself as the lone hero who swooped in to clean up the American mess. He was essentially taking a victory lap for a race won with American blood, sweat, and tears. The reaction was exactly what you'd expect, an absolute firestorm. American generals were beyond furious. The newspapers back home were screaming. In one single press conference, Montgomery had managed to insult and alienate his most important allies.
You know you've really messed up when even your own boss, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, is horrified. When Churchill heard what happened, he knew how bad it was. Monty's ego hadn't just caused an insult, it had risked the entire Anglo-American relationship. And just like that, his dream of being Supreme Commander was dead.
But this whole story, this incredible personal drama, it's really just a sign of something much, much bigger that was happening. A massive shift in the global balance of power.
What we're really watching here, in this quiet office and at that disastrous press conference, is the unofficial end of the British Empire as the world's dominant military power. The torch was being passed to America, not with a fancy ceremony, but in a moment of intense crisis.
And if you want to understand Eisenhower's ultimate trump card, you just have to look at the cold, hard numbers. The difference in what the US and the UK were producing by 1944 is just staggering. America wasn't just another country in the alliance, it was the industrial engine driving the whole war effort. And that economic power translated directly into political power.
This whole crisis really was one of the key moments that kicked off what we now call the American century. Montgomery's power play was the last gasp of an old world, an old empire. Eisenhower's victory, quiet as it was the dawn of a new one, built on industrial might and the ability to manage a global coalition.
So in the end, it all boils down to one timeless question. What's more important in the crucible of war? A brilliant battlefield commander or a leader who can hold a fragile alliance together? Montgomery was convinced it was the former. Eisenhower knew it was the latter. And the answer to that question, decided in the frozen winter of 1944, went on to shape the world we live in today.